So the big question is this: how do most agents who struggle to get the information that most successful agents hoard to themselves grow and prosper without this information? That's the big question, and this video cast is the answer. Welcome to Real Estate Rockstars. I'm your host, Pat Hyben. All right, Rockstar Nation, I got a great guest today. Susan Reinhart is the agent shrink. Yes, the agent shrink. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Susan. She currently lives in Annapolis, Maryland, but she's lived in 10 different places. She's a realtor's dream in every place she moves because she's buying and then she's shortly selling as soon as she moves there and move into a new place. She's raised 4 kids as a naval wife and is a by trade a psychologist. And she started thinking about how being a real estate agent is very similar to being a psychologist, and she got her real estate license and now is a very successful real estate agent. And I said, you know what, you should come on the show and talk about about exactly that, right? Because no one really talks about that, how we can be better shrinks, how we can be better think like a shrink to sell. I need to think of a rhyme here for sales numbers that don't stink. But think so. This is what she's doing, and I'm excited to get into it. So let's jump right into it. Susan, welcome to Real Estate Rockstars.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself? Maybe anything I didn't mention, so we can get to know you better.
No, I think you covered it. Yeah, military spouse, go Navy, beat Army, woohoo. So 17 years active duty with my husband. We've been married 17 years, all active duty. So I have a master's degree in psychology. I loved doing that, but like many military spouses, when the birth of my first child, I stopped working and made a job out of moving. So we settled down and knew it was time for me to go back to work years, back, and I love real estate.
That's awesome. And so let's talk about that. Now, you have something you call the 3 characteristics of a good shrink agent, right? 3 characteristics where the life of a psychologist, right, whatever, mirrors or runs parallel to the life of a real estate agent. And I want to talk about them. I want to talk about them one by one, and then I want to talk about how to implement them to make the Rockstar Nation better at dealing with people and therein allowing them to close more deals and allowing them to hold on to more deals because they're better persons, for lack of a better way to put it. So let's talk about that. So what would you say the first and most important characteristic is that to be more shrink-like as an agent?
Shrink-like. Well, let me backpedal just a little to let you know why I came to this. I got my license, interviewed brokers. I went in every day to the office, briefcase in hand, and I did everything you're supposed to do. I loved reading about it. I loved the training. I loved listening to coaches online. They all talked about a sphere of influence. The sphere of influence. Mine was limited. I was transported to a state via the military, hadn't been living there long, and honestly had never worked a job in the state, didn't go to school. I didn't have a friend before moving there. So I had to go back to what the tools in my toolbox and my training and education and said, okay, they're telling me to do XYZ, door knock, and I think that's great, but if it's not true to who you are, which it was not me, I wanted to go back to my roots in education. So I wrote down, what do I think early on in my career, 3 characteristics of a good psychologist that mirror a good agent would be. So number 1, it seems easy, all these, but you'll be surprised. Confidentiality. It comes easily with my clients and myself. We have a rapport. Remember, if a client trusts you, they're going to share more with you. They'll open up. They'll be more honest.
All right, so let's talk about this. So, obviously when you come down, and you sit down with your psychotherapist or whoever it is you're meeting with, they're letting you know, hey, there's certain fiduciary relationships that I have as your doctor, and anything you tell me is completely private, will not leave this room. Most agents do not have a similar conversation, right? Most agents' conversation is about what I'm going to do for you, or can I get you a list of houses or whatever, right? So how should you broach this conversation about confidentiality?
Well, I think, first of all, let's even step back realtor to realtor. What I witnessed early on is I was surprised how agents were not encompassing the concept of confidentiality. I heard gossiping in offices, other agents telling me facts they shouldn't. And I still say my favorite is when an agent calls you, Pat, and says, between you and me, right? And I go, and my client, they don't understand that. So when I speak with clients, whatnot, if it comes up that I'm a psychologist, I do let them know. I had a couple recently going through a difficult time, and I let them know, and I had to reassure them that I understand confidentiality with my education and training. But these are more the characteristics that makes a good realtor, and then we can talk about how different things apply to us, like different.
Right, but so confidentiality. Like, what are some things that you hear other agents disclosing that they shouldn't be?
Well, I think sometimes the open office space. I pay for a private office because I think sometimes you hear a lot in the workspace in offices. I think sometimes it's not the place to have certain conversation, or agents will tell you XYZ. You go to a broker's open house and agents start gossiping. And I just found that interesting. And again, it's part of how I was going to transform maybe certain, public's perception of we are professionals. Because before I became a realtor, are we a profession or are we trade? We get that all the time. And I think I saw some of the behaviors in agents that, and I'm not dissing agents, it's not that, but I wanted to change it. And
so essentially you treat it the same, and whatever anybody tells you, you keep it to yourself, and that's it.
Obviously.
And okay. Makes a lot of sense. I think that all agents should explain what the word fiduciary means, explain what the relationship looks like, and why it's important to have that conversation. And it obviously should be done right away, because buyers and sellers, they don't get it. They don't understand it. And
a lot of times they just think you're someone they clicked on the internet, or again, their perception of realtors, I think, needs to change. Our consumer, they're becoming more educated.
Right.
They're expecting more out of us.
Yeah, and the value of a real estate agent is diminishing based on technology. And so as agents, we need to work harder than ever to show our value. And one of the ways you could do that is to treat it more professionally yourself as an agent, such as a doctor or lawyer would, with a certain level of confidentiality, certain level of exactly right. And so it's our own fault that agents are looked at. You had mentioned it, so I'm going to bring it up, that agents are looked at as unprofessional. It's our own fault. And obviously this characteristic is a lot of the reason.
Yeah, you're right on. You're right on. And again, it's not disrespecting it. There are fabulous agents and many are following, but like you said, I think when we have to change how we first meet a client. Like you said, it's not that, hey, I got these houses for you. Let's go. I got a good deal. Here are my numbers. I'm a top producer. The consumer doesn't want to be sold anymore. They've made that clear. And how they're buying online. They don't want to walk in a store. They don't want to be sold. So yes. So I think our first impression in our first meeting, whether it be on the phone or in person with them, is just to, like you said, talk about fiduciary duties and, give them a little language that lets them know we're professionals.
I like that. Okay, cool. What's the second characteristic?
Again, this is second characteristic of being a good agent, not how to apply is different. A good listener. Again, it seems obvious, sounds like a no-brainer, but I would be a lousy psychologist if I can't listen to people. Your clients may be polite and ask questions about you, but we know they don't really care. So I try to quickly transfer it back to them, because what they really want to talk about is the house they saw, what's going on, things like that. And hold on, but something just popped up. There you go. So be a good listener and find a way to turn it back to them. I was surprised hearing agents talk so much about themselves or their problems. Again, if we're going to be seen as professions within the industry, I don't want to go to my accountant and hear that he was up all night with his dog and he's tired. And, I don't want to wait for that appointment with my doctor and get half because they're telling me their personal life. It's all about me. And I think when we approach a client, we have to remember they're our client and it's all about them all the time.
Okay, so let's stop here. Let's talk about how to implement this. Like how do I implement, characteristic number 2?
Okay, very good point. So, for example, I did a lot of online Zillow leads, okay? So I meet the client at the house and now I'm like, okay, I know how the characteristics to be a good agent. Let me now start applying it to my clients. You ask them these questions. And like I said, your image, an image of everyone going to therapy session. What is it? It's you sitting on the couch as the client and the psychologist. And what is the first question they ask you?
For a shrink, because I've been, and so I'll tell you flat out, what brings you here today?
Exactly. And I ask the almost exact same question to the buyers when I meet them on the footsteps of a new home. What brings you here today? Specifically, what about this home attracted you to click on it and whatnot? Again, right there, you're setting a dynamic that I'm kind of the caretaker or the question leading and guiding, but I'm looking to you and I'm respecting you. And I think many counselors, that's our approach to counseling, is we want to be a part of a team, but we're here to guide you along your journey.
So are you asking them like a shrink would? Okay, so what brings you here today? Oh, well, we want to buy a house. Okay, so why do you want to buy a house? Are you like in the shrink's office? It seems like the whole thing is you're going. As a friend of mine used to say, going 3 deep, right? You're going deep with the W's. So why do you want to buy a house? What will a house? How will a house make you feel? What is it about a house?
Not the first time. I say that for the second time.
So what are you doing? Like, talk to me about, more about this then. Like, what are you doing differently that makes you a better listener, because of your background?
I think not as much a better listener, but asking good follow-on questions. I think if you
give me the questions.
Well, yeah, like you said, you meet someone at the house and what you ask them, what specifically, why are you here today? What specifically, Pat, why did you click on this house that made you want to meet me here today? Because I'm sure you have viewed hundreds of homes online before clicking. What made you click on this house? And that usually opens up. We're looking to move, okay? You put that in your head, and then you'll ask a follow-on questions. When are you looking to move? You try to consolidate. If your shrink, you said, right? We don't, but they'll listen to you. And then their follow-on question may be compounded. Again, it's our training. It may be compounded with a couple questions into one that I want answers. How long are you looking to move and why are you moving? Things like that. So you listen to them and you hear them. And, I walked through, an agent asked me to help walk through with buyers recently. And the agent was like, look at the granite countertops. And I entered the agent afterwards. They don't need us pointing that out. Again, our consumers are more educated. And if we're going to continue to demand our worth and show our worth, we have to implement it. And I think by acting professional, listening to them and not saying, look at the granite countertops, look at stainless steel. They know these things. They all watch HGTV if they're buying a home or selling. So we kind of get into the psychological portion of, buying a home. And, real estate is a far more emotional business than people realize.
Yeah. I mean, It is. And if it's not, if a person's unemotional, then they may be more better suited for, and I'm thinking way off in the future, or maybe not, maybe the near future, right? And talking about how the real estate agent's value is dissipating. It really is. And that the lock boxes now for rentals don't require an agent, right? They just require you to put in your driver's license and maybe a credit card to look at a house. Without an agent, you can get the value of your house without an agent. You can get full access to the MLS and more without an agent. So agents are having to spend more time and effort becoming professional, becoming valued. And I think that if someone is unemotional about buying and or selling, they're going to be more apt to use discounted services that allow them to do it. And the ones that want someone who's going to be there for them, to hold their hand and to go through this emotional process with them, essentially paying for it, are going to expect it a lot more, right? And that's why agents need to be better, because of if not, the consumer's just going to be like, well, I can get this from a robot, or I can get this from anybody, and save money or what have you. So
no, you're right. I say, we get paid too much money to shuffle papers only during a transaction. They don't need us to help shuffle papers, right? And you're exactly right. I don't believe we'll be replaced. I believe all the economists, and I just came from a convention, international one. I don't believe we'll be replaced, but I'm not naive. I do believe the consumer has spoken, and they don't want to pay 5 to 6% anymore. I think we can only fight them so long. But there is a difference between a discounted and maybe a disruptor, they're calling it, I think, nowadays, right? But we won't be replaced, but I think our value and what we do is going to change, and the image of what they need us for is going to change. And there's going to be we have to respect artificial intelligence can do things in the back end, and administrators can do things. I think that's why we're seeing just the explosion of teams, because I predict the future. There's going to be less of us, and we're going to be doing more work, but we're going to do more transactions, the number, but we're not going to be being paid as much per transaction. So we're going to have to do more, but I think it's going to weed out, I think a prediction I read was 2/3 of agents are going to be gone in the next 7 to 10 years.
Amazing read for agents who want to blow their business up. 6 Steps to 7 Figures was an amazing read. Pat breaks it down into simple, actionable steps that, if taken, will almost guarantee 7-figure success in the real estate sales business. Couldn't recommend this enough. Wow. Thank you for the awesome Amazon review, Garo215. Now, do you want to get your hands on this book for free and blow your business up? Here's how. Go to free6stepsbook.com. That's free, S-I-X, stepsbook.com right now, or simply text the word PAT to 444-999. That's text PAT to 444-999, and I'll send you a free book. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely going to be some consolidation indeed. So, okay. So being a better listener, like, how many questions should you be asking roughly per statement, right? Most agents are just making statements. And what's a good conscious thing to think about? Like, I should ask 3 questions per every 1 statement I make, or whatever. What's your kind of rule of thumb there?
No, that's not. I kind of just start with the opening, and they usually open the flood. And then, as again, you've now asked them that, you're in the house and you listen to them. I do tell them, I take notes. I pull out my iPhone, I have my little notes on every client. Again, this is a psychologist to me. I actually send a summary after every day of showings with them. And what I choose to pick out and comment on, or it's always their voice, never my voice. But I tend to pick out things that I want them to focus on. I'm not going to put, you didn't like the red paint in the dining room, because that's a non-factor. We know that as agents. but I put things that a reminder of what they said, and it's kind of a subconscious way to focus on this, right? Well, you liked the location, you liked that, but when we go through, I tell them, I say, listen, just speak out loud, talk out loud to yourself, and I'm going to take notes. It's my first time meeting you, and I want to see what's important to you, what stands out. I said, negative is just as important and helpful as positive. And then I follow them through. I mean, we talk, I'm not a mute, but again, it's their time. It's their hour.
Yeah. And I love the level of professionalism because, it makes me think, like when I was at the therapist, if I were to come in and she would not have any idea of what we spoke about last time,
correct,
it would piss me off, right? Because then, I'd have to backtrack. And so, it was nice for her to say, okay, so when we left off last time, we were talking about this. How are you feeling about it now? Da, 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 da. And it's the same way. You should be like, hey, when we met last time, you didn't like this house because of this, and you didn't like this house because of this. I mean, it's just a whole nother level of professionalism.
And it takes, I open a new note, iPhone, the little note. I open a new note for each client. I just keep adding on to it. Because when I'm pulling up to a house, we all can be working with 20, 30 buyers at a time, you know what I mean? And I pull up to a house and I scroll through quickly, just as what was the last summer, same as you do as a counselor, right? What was he concerned about last session? Where are our goals? And that's the other thing you want to talk about. Psychologists are goal oriented. You want to talk about that. It's our training, it's our background. If you've ever been in physical therapy, she had to write out goals for the insurance company. Those goals had to be measurable. They had to be on a time frame, and she had to submit them to the insurance company. Insurance company isn't just going to pay a physical therapist money for doing physical therapy. They have to present goals, and this is what we're working on. So I think the same should be with real estate. We have to help set goals for our clients. Whether it depends on the client. Some you may do on your own. Okay, this is my goal. You try to include them as often as you can, but not everyone.
Yeah, so how do you, let's talk about this. So let's say you're working with a buyer or a seller. What would be the example of a goal that you would set for them and say, this is my goal for you?
Well, I first ask them, and then I help word it, and I reword it in a way that, has the positive.
So how would you ask them? Like, what would the question look like?
Well, when we talked about outside, you told me, Pat, you were looking to buy in 6 to 12 months. Okay. All right. So great. You're looking 6 to 12 months, or, we'll talk about, I get into it later. Are you in a lease? I don't ask a lot of those details the first time meeting them. The whole presentation is going to be about them and not the rote questions that every other agent's asking them. So it's letting them see the value in us again, that they can use me. So yeah, so I do ask them, what are your goals? What do you expect out of this? What do you want? And then we talk about, okay, so 6 to 12 months, that's a timeline. Okay, what is the measurable? What are you looking to do? How, if it's a younger couple, I recently, 6 months ago, they wanted to save X amount of money. Okay, how are you working on that? What are you doing? So we stepped back on a different day and we talked about that. Again, I put that back in my head and in my notes to bring it up on a later date.
So you're kind of like you're their coach, like you're their accountability partner and helping them through everything, right?
Wasn't that your counselor?
Yeah, right. Like, what do you want to do between now and the next session, right? Or what do you want to do between now and the next time we meet? Well, I want to do this. Okay. So you put it down and then you hold them accountable when you meet. How did that go? Were you able to do that?
And to flip it, I tend to give a follow-up assignment for myself to them without them knowing that. I will. If it's on me, I may not send it out next, but if I say to them, I'm going to send you this by tomorrow, give yourself some time, I will not follow through with my word with my clients. So I also, you're going to set them up, but set yourself up with one. Hey, you know what? I know a house that sold down the street. You want to touch them as often as you can in the beginning. Same way to say, as much as you can, you're involved in showing them your value. There was a house that just sold. I'm going to email it to you. They may say, oh, we saw it. So, okay. But I already said I was going to email it to them. I didn't tell them that. I'll still email it to them. And I think it's important to follow up on what you say you're going to do.
Easy way to lose a customer is and so many agents do it, and myself included when I was in the business. I'll send that to you, or I'll get that to you. I still do it today with people that I meet. You know what I mean? If I'm at something busy, and I think that it goes back to the habit of writing things down, and you have a habit as a psychologist of writing stuff down. And I think as agents, we need to slow down and start writing things down. Send this to Phil, right? Margaret needs this. You know what I mean? Because Because the fact of the matter is there's so much that goes on in an agent's mind, just so much. There's so much feedback nowadays. It's easy to forget stuff.
But it's also easier than ever to, when I started, 25 years, it's like, we didn't have iPhones to take notes. We didn't have a Surface Pro. So it's easy on your phone. Everybody has a note system on their phone. And again, I just have a running tally one with the same for each client. And it's easy to go back and reference it. And because, yeah. So
I think I would even have a conversation with them maybe at the same time when you're talking about the confidentiality. It's like, here's the thing. I think like a psychologist does. I'm not sending a text, right? I'm not checking Facebook. When you see me on my phone, I'm writing into my notes.
Oh, yes.
About us. And
that's what I say.
100% of my attention is you.
Yeah, I ask permission. Yeah. Hey, I'm going to follow you through. Do you mind? I'm taking notes on this. And exactly that. Don't think I'm on the phone. It's all here. I'm taking notes on what you're saying. It helps me better understand what you're looking for in a home so I can help you. Because again, I think our goal, we talked about this. I don't know if we get paid when our goal is met. Your clients are happy when their goal is met. For the most, it's either purchasing or selling a home, right? So I want to be as efficient in meeting that goal. I want to minimize the time, and I want to do it ethically and professionally so that I'm not selling them, if that makes sense. So how can we most efficiently and painlessly help our clients meet that goal?
Yeah. No, I love that. Okay. So let me go back a little bit because we started jumping into how to implement, which I think was important while we talked about it. So why don't we talk about how to implement the confidentiality thing now? Like how do you implement that? Like, do you have a certain speech that you have that you give them more or less right when you first meet them? What do we need to know about that?
I kind of wait until it's the time. Some will just they come as they come and they share their whole lives with you. And sometimes if I can tell they're be hesitant, especially, I'll kind of make reminders throughout this journey of I'm talking about home buyers, home buying. And you notice when they tense up is when you ask them what they're thinking of offering, right? They want to place an offer on a house. What do you think you can see them looking at each other and tense up. And that's where you have to remind them, guys, I work for you. Let's talk about the confidentiality. We talk about it before them, but it's a reminder. So I don't need to remind them and bring it in their face all the time if it's not an issue.
I want you to think about the word toolbox. What is a toolbox? A toolbox is a box full of tools that you use to build something great. At Real Estate Rockstars, we've created our own free toolbox. So everybody that comes on the show as a guest brings a tool with them, and we plow them all into this toolbox, and we give it away for our viewing audience to basically use as they wish. Everything we put in there is an actionable item that can be downloaded, can be printed, can be used immediately. And we got things like scripts and dialogues, checklists for teams, checklists to keep agents accountable, referral forms that are filled out at settlement to get referrals by your buyers and sellers. Everything you could think of that you could use on a regular basis about real estate is included in this toolbox. And it's helping agents worldwide sell more houses and make their jobs a lot easier and processes much more efficient. And the thing is, it's absolutely free. All you got to do is go to hibandigital.com/toolbox or text the word toolbox to 444-999. That's toolbox 444-999. Do it now. Yeah, no, I like it. Okay, cool. So now let's jump to the third characteristic. Third characteristic of a agent shrink. I know you hate that word probably, but what's the third characteristic that we can look at that the world of psychology and the world of being a realtor where they meet and are very similar?
Moral compass. You have to have some sort of moral compass to be a good psychologist. Someone doesn't dedicate their lives into helping others for not a lot of pay in reality, unless they have a strong moral compass. So my advice to people, keep your moral compass in check. I've noticed, we always say no transaction is no one transaction is worth your license. And we know that's true, but I notice people's moral compass, the pin tends to sway the higher the price tag of the home. And just try to keep a moral compass. You know, in psychology, I can't sway my ethics and everything and confident because of this person or that. We treat everyone the same, but we don't have a value. We have an hourly rate and we charge everyone the same. I think what the difference here in real estate is every client has a different value. They're worth different amounts to us. And I think that's unique about this industry. So don't let your moral compass sway because.
Well, that's interesting that you brought that up. I'm glad you did. And I want to talk to you about it. Now, here's the thing. So agents, and I'm going to generalize, there are some agents whose moral compasses sway dependent upon the amount of the commission they're going to get.
Yeah.
You said higher price range, but it's certainly related to commission. And I used to teach a leadership class with Kristen Cole, and I'll never forget one of her big things that I always remembered is when she talked about morals, is she would say, treat every dilemma or every question you have as if money were not part of the equation.
I love that. Love that. Absolutely. Yep.
And so this is becoming a dilemma for a lot of agents right now. And let's just go ahead and dig in. So what is happening is in most MLS systems, the control of the cooperating commission is in the hands of the seller. And sometimes it's blocked or audited or edited or whatever you want to say by the listing agent, but generally it's supposed to come from the seller, i.e. the seller has the choice of picking it. And a lot of companies are coming out and they're not giving guidance to the sellers, and the sellers are just saying, hey, let's try it at A% instead of B% or C% instead of D%. Builders are out there who are saying, you know what, the price of lumber with the Canadian tariffs has jacked our prices up. We can't make these margins. I'm going to drop all our co-op commissions by, B%. And so what's happening, and there's agents, I'm talking to agents all around North America, even, farther than that. And this is starting to happen in pockets. And there is a moral dilemma that agents are facing, and that is this. Is providing you don't have a buyer-broker agreement, which everybody tries to say that they do have a buyer-broker agreement signed on day one, and only about 1% of all agents get that signed on day one. I'm going to be just real here. 99% don't do it.
Well, it's you have to now in Maryland.
You have to now in Maryland for the last 20 years. Same with other states, but still agents don't do it. Or if they do it, I don't know if they actually have that discussion about, listen, here's the deal. I may show you a home that has a commission of X and I charge Y. And if in any offer that we put in, I'm going to put in Y into our contract, and you're okay with this. And by the way, we may lose the house if it's competitive bid because I'm asking for more money over from the seller over and above what they're offering in MLS. And I don't think they're actually having that conversation. I think they're just saying, here, sign here. Since I represent you. And it's a disservice to the buyer in a sense because, the buyer may lose out on contracts. And the buyer's not well aware of it. It's not a discussion that's been had with the buyer, rightfully so. So my question to you is, with the moral compass, like with you personally as an agent, are you, basically saying to the buyer, if you love the house, I am going to, represents you 100% regardless of what the co-op commission is, let the chips fall where they may? Or are you telling them up front they got to pay the difference if the co-op is less than a certain amount?
Well, where I live in my area, the majority is still through the MLS, so you're still being offered commission, comp fairly, right? So it hasn't been an issue. So
well, if someone found a house in Zillow,
yeah, and that's
you went
happened
out there and you met them at the house and showed it to them, and you
Mhm.
don't have a buyer broker agreement with them, and it's a commission that is half of what you normally are used to getting.
Absolutely, I'll represent them 100%, and I would never make them. But that goes back to my philosophy. Not philosophy, but I've moved 9 times in 14 years. I know what it's like to be on that end. I don't think realtors move enough because moving is horrific. You don't know who to trust. You think they're cohorting behind you. I don't think buyers should be charged anything. I actually pay the Reinhart, my husband and I, we pay our buyer fee for our clients because I don't think buyers should be charged anything.
What do you mean you pay your buyer fee?
The broker flat fee.
Oh, okay. I think you take it to a whole nother level, like the transaction fee that the broker charges, the $4.95 or whatever. You pay that, so you certainly wouldn't make the buyer pay the difference in a co-op commission.
No, and I think what you put out there will come back. Like in the sense, I think you'll see it back. The other thing about the flat fee is you have to tell them on day one when you meet them. That's if you're going to charge them, right? You can't sell them a good of services and then not tell them the cost. I mean, I've sat at a closing table and I actually saw a client ask the other agent, "What is this fee?" That client had no idea they were paying a broker fee. So early on,
usually don't.
They don't, and I think we're more than compensated. I think this is part of the public's perception of maybe thinking we sound or appear greed, or we don't want to spend any money, or we're paid a nice paycheck for the amount of hours. Typically, we all have the one that lingers, but per hour, what we make, it's not that bad.
No, absolutely, and I think that that's another thing that goes back to the moral compass of explaining it. I think it's very easy to explain some of these documents in a very fast manner. And most buyers probably have no clue about, a transaction fee or any responsibility for paying, a difference in a co-op commission and what a buyer broker agreement says. As a matter of fact, I heard of a lawsuit recently of a buyer that bought a house with a builder, and they signed a buyer broker agreement with an agent. And the buyer broker agreement was part of an addendum in a contract. Like they submitted an offer with an agent, the deal fell through, but addendum number 11 was a buyer broker agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted a commission from the builder. Now, understanding both sides, the legal side of it with the buyers, right, who kind of didn't want to be attached to a buyer broker agreement, and thought it was addendum number 11 of an offer that didn't get accepted, was that if a contract is dead, isn't an addendum dead?
Depends how the addendum was worded. It depends how you wrote it, right?
Yeah.
You talking about a blank addendum or the addendum?
Well, it was a buyer broker agreement that said you're going to pay the commission, and the commission was the commission of the house that they put the offer in on, and then that deal fell through, and then a couple months later they bought a builder home without the agent,
Mm-hmm.
and the agent said, "No, give me my money. We have a buyer broker agreement." And they said, "We never signed a buyer broker agreement." And they said, "Yes, you did. When we put that offer together, you signed one."
Correct.
And they're like, "Well, that was just an addendum. It was like a home inspection addendum and a agency addendum and a whatever addendum." And they're like,
But
"No, that was a
broker agreement isn't an addendum. It's its own self-sustaining contract."
Right, but they saw it as an addendum. They saw it as one of 40 pages they signed.
Yeah. I see where you're going. I got you now. Yeah. No, I hear. Well, I think that sounds like there's a lot to that story in that case, but yeah. No, but I think what you're saying is, the moral compass and whatnot, and I mean, how much are you going to fight someone again?
Right. The moral compass of the agent should be like, I snuck it in and I didn't bring them to the builder, so I don't deserve a commission. In my mind, that should be the moral compass.
Yeah. Well, and back to another example, you're right, that is a great example. And another, you ask how we implement it. And I know I get a lot of heck from people in my own office on this one. We don't sell our own listings. My team, we do not sell our own listings. NAR came out 4 years ago with a statistic. A contract is 40% more likely, 40% more likely to fall out of contract if it's the same agent handling, if the buyer does not have representation. So
Why?
I believe it's only going to be a matter. Excuse me?
Why do you think that is?
Because I think at some point, again, consumers are more educated. The buyer wakes up. It's usually, according to NAR, during the inspection period. I think at some point the buyer wakes up and realizes, I want representation. And I don't know how then, if we're the listing agent and we only represent our sellers, how can I best be representing my seller if I know there's a 40% more likely chance this contract they have will fall out if I don't refer it out. So I think I can sell the home better. So open houses, I'll do showings that come my way with leads, and I refer it out. I make a decent amount of money referring out to agents.
So do you think that, like before you said, the moral compass starts moving away relative to the amount of the commission or the sales price?
Mm-hmm.
And if you double dip, you get paid twice as much. Mm-hmm. So do you think that could possibly move the moral compass even greater because then the commission doubles?
Well, don't you? You're going to...
Yeah, that's interesting though to think about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you're going to be in situations with this buyer that you're representing the seller that you may be, whether you know it or not, I don't think a lot of agents do it on a malicious intent. But if we're so passionate about, how we're needed as realtors, right? A buyer needs us. How can we turn around and say to them, you don't need a realtor, you don't need representation? I think we're contradicting ourselves.
Yeah, it almost leads to the discussion or the debate about whether agents should be paid an hourly rate like they are in a lot of the world. Because then it takes that whole moral compass platform out of there, and that you're getting paid, you know what I mean? You're not getting, you're not, you could say the same thing with stockbrokers too. Like, is this guy recommending this stock because he's making a commission on it? If he was only making $25, would he recommend this, or do he recommend something that's actually, you know what I mean, pays?
Lenders try to sell us different programs of the month, right?
That's true.
Right. True. But and I think what you're saying, I mean, we can't go to hourly base. That's a whole other, I'd love to talk to you about that sometime. But because we're agents, and I jokingly say we are horrific about keeping records and keeping track of things. So if you think an agent is going to use an hourly tool an attorney uses, that's not going to happen. How are you going to monitor?
My point is just that it might make agents more moral.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No, I agree with you. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, but that's another example of the moral compass. And yes, am I losing some money in the upfront? Yes. But again, I think I have sellers always respect that decision, and it's part of our listing presentation. Yeah.
Wow. Well, this has been fun, man. I love this stuff, and I'm glad you took it in many different directions. So, as you know, everybody that comes on the show brings a free gift. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the free gift in your show notes. Okay, guys, I'm going to put the show notes on hibandigital.com/agent shrink.
Oh, nice.
I'm going to put it on hibandigital.com/agent shrink, SHRINK. So, Susan, what is your free gift?
Well, nothing to do with psychology. Sorry. This is a whole other thing. I think we're becoming marketing agents. It's again how the public's perception is changing of us, but how we have to change. Gone are the day of, our motto right now, gone are the days of listing your home. You have to market your home. So you need to hire marketing agents. That's why the team is growing, right? You have a marketing, you have X, Y, Z. So when we moved, we call this our forever home. In the military, when you retire, you have a forever home. So finally we're living somewhere. So I have a forever farming market, I jokingly tell people. So with that, we started marketing postcards, and we do the same marketing that we have a farm, 1,200 homes. We market them, the postcards, we mail them. And then I do the same ad on Facebook, Instagram, and all that social media. So they're seeing it in 2 different avenues. And so it's just a couple of our marketing ideas because we're receiving some positive feedback. Again, it's a sign of the times. People want modern, fresh. It's not about me. You won't even see my picture in any of these. It's our logo. We're just trying to remove the self-centeredness of us and us being the product. Again, I always say real estate agents, we're not the rainmakers. We're not. So if we stop seeing ourselves as the center of the transaction, and I think we'll be better served and better serve our clients.
I love it. I love it. Well, guys, I'm going to put that on hibandigital.com/agent shrink. And I am also going to put it in the Agent Success Toolbox, which you can get on hibandigital.com/toolbox or texting the word toolbox to 444-999. Susan, best of luck to you in all your endeavors. Thanks for coming on and being so candid and sharing so much. Had a good time. And if I'm ever down there by the Naval Yard in Annapolis, Maryland, we'll get together and break some bread.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye. Okay. Thank you so much for tuning in to Real Estate Rockstars. If this free content is giving you a ton of value, I want to ask a small favor in return. I need you to pull out your pointing finger and hit the subscribe button. Yes, hit subscribe, please. The more subscribers that we get on Real Estate Rockstars, the better guests are attracted to the shows. We'll get more guests from the top companies, from the top teams, and even more celebrity guests like Robert Kiyosaki and Barbara Corcoran. Also, if you're not a member of our free Facebook group, go to Real Estate Rockstars Radio right on Facebook and join the conversation. I'm on there myself on FaceTime Lives, and we have a lot of communications and questions about the show, and I'd love to see you there. And it's free. People ask me all the time, where am I on social media? I'm real easy to find. Just type in my name. My IG is I am Pat Hyben. It is blowing up on Instagram, adding tons of subscribers, and I'm on there probably twice a day. So definitely follow me on Instagram, as well as everywhere else. Thanks again for listening, and keep rocking.